And we'll be hearing from Louisa all this week. You can also go to our website, npr.org, to get a look at the herders and more of our stories in our series on Mongolia. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Progressive Insurance, with more than 30,000 local independent agents. Information is available at progressive.com. From Novo Nordisk, committed to changing diabetes through treatments, partnerships, and education. Defeating diabetes is our passion and our business. And from Angie's List, providing consumer reviews on local professionals from doctors and veterinarians to plumbers and roofers. Details at angieslist.com. This is NPR.
Good morning, I'm Steve Inskeep. An angry Pittsburgh driver got justice and now wants a little more. Back in 2006, David Hagbart flipped his middle finger at another driver. Somebody yelled at him, so he flipped the bird again. Only the second person was a cop. Mr. Hagbart was arrested, but then released by a judge who said the First Amendment protects his finger. Now he is suing for damages. You can guess how he's going to celebrate if he wins. You're listening to Morning Edition.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Carol Van Dam. President Obama meets today with top Democratic lawmakers as he prepares for tomorrow's address to a joint session of Congress on health care overhaul. Aides say the president will talk about specifics in the speech. He is expected to say it's time to move on from the dialogue and start voting. The president today will urge the nation's young people to study hard and stay in school, a speech that triggered a backlash even before it's been delivered. NPR's Scott Horsley reports.
The White House released an advanced copy of the president's back-to-school speech in hopes of quieting critics who'd warned Mr. Obama might take advantage of a captive classroom audience to spread an overly partisan message. Instead, Mr. Obama draws on his own experience to highlight the importance of getting a good education. Speaking aboard the Air Force One yesterday, White House spokesman Robert Gibbs called it sad that a political fight had intruded on that message.
Right now, nearly 3 in 10 kids in school will not walk across the stage and get a high school diploma. If anybody thinks that's the recipe for long-term economic growth, I've got news for them.
Mr. Obama will tell students today he understands the challenges facing those with single parents or whose families have trouble paying the bills, but he says those challenges are no excuse for not trying. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Education Secretary Arne Duncan says President Obama feels it is critically important to speak directly to America's school students because of lagging academic performance. In Afghanistan, a UN-backed election commission has ordered a recount today of ballots at hundreds of polling stations where it found convincing evidence of fraud in last month's presidential election. NPR's Soraya Sarhadi-Nelson has more.
Exactly how many stations they are not saying at the moment. They've conducted their investigation at this stage mainly in 3 provinces. One in particular that should be of note is Kandahar province in the south, which is that pivotal province that is the home province of President Karzai.
NPR's Soraya Sarhadi-Nelson. U.S. Ambassador Carl Eikenberry met with Karzai yesterday to talk about the election. An embassy spokesperson would not provide details. Afghanistan's election commission now says Karzai has 54% of the vote, with almost all the ballots counted. That means Karzai has surpassed the all-important 50% threshold to avoid a runoff, but the UN Commission may order more votes be thrown out. Results are not expected until late September. The NATO-led force today conceded for the first time that Afghan civilians were killed in a U.S. airstrike last week on 2 hijacked fuel tankers and has ordered an investigation. Civilians swooped in to siphon fuel from the tanker shortly after they were bombed. General Stanley McChrystal, the top U.S., NATO, and UN commander in Afghanistan, appointed a Canadian major general to head the investigation. Tropical storm Fred is getting stronger today. It formed yesterday in the eastern Atlantic. This is NPR. Police in Milwaukee have arrested a man they say is a serial killer. Police Chief Edward Flynn says investigators have connected Walter E. Ellis to slayings of 9 women dating back to 1986. Flynn says Ellis's DNA was detected on the bodies of all 9 women. The killing spree went on for more than 20 years. The police did not specify a possible motive. Employers in the U.S. plan to slow down their hiring activity in the final quarter of the year. That's according to a new survey. From member station WUWM, Marty Michelson reports.
The latest Manpower survey shows 12% of companies expect to hire more workers heading into the end of the year, while 14% plan to reduce staff. That's the weakest outlook in the history of the survey, which began in 1962. In the third quarter, 15% of employers plan to increase staff. Manpower Chair and CEO Jeffrey Jarrett says while there are areas that are showing an uptick, the country has yet to see the robust hiring that would indicate a full labor market recovery. Prospects look best in education and health services. The construction and hospitality sectors indicate considerably weaker hiring plans. For NPR News, I'm Marty Michelson in Milwaukee.
A coalition of public interest organizations says President Obama's policies on secrecy are a major break with the past administration of George W. Bush. In a report to be released today, the coalition says although there's still room for improvement, it applauds the move to release Justice Department memos on the handling of detainees during the Bush administration. But OpenTheGovernment.org criticized the Obama administration for supporting the secrecy regarding former Vice President Dick Cheney's role in making public Valerie Plame's connection to the CIA. I'm Carol Van Dam, NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, informing health reform with policy research, data, and expert commentary. On the web at healthreform.org.
It had all the makings of a commuter's nightmare. Take one of the busiest bridges in the country and shut it down. That's what happened after construction crews discovered a crack in the Bay Bridge. That's the bridge that connects San Francisco to Oakland and other cities on the east of San Francisco. This morning, officials announced that they are reopening the bridge. NPR's Richard Gonzalez is out there in the morning rush, and he joins us now from a BART rail station. Hello.
Good morning, Renee.
So I guess you're at the rail station. Well, maybe you always take the rail, take the metro to the city, but partly because a lot of people did that this morning, and the bridge was supposed to be closed up until tomorrow. What prompted officials to reopen it sooner?
Well, they reopened it sooner because they were able to fix a crack in the bridge they had discovered over the weekend. The bridge had been closed for the Labor Day weekend for this massive seismic retrofit as part of the construction of a new Bay Bridge that is scheduled to open in 2013. There was a 300-foot section of the bridge that was cut out of the 73-year-old structure, and another section was slipped into its place. Work was entirely on schedule when they discovered a problem. They discovered this crack in the bridge, and so they decided to keep the bridge closed for at least another day. The original plan was to keep the bridge closed until 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. Wednesday morning, and people began making alternate plans. But then it was just a few minutes ago that the bridge will open today, this morning.
So that crack, which sounds a little scary probably to most people, they fixed it so that there's no longer concern for commuters passing over this bridge?
Well, that's right. They say that the bridge now is safer than when it was closed on Friday. This crack is on what's known as an I-bar beam that is on the opposite end of the bridge from where the seismic retrofit construction was happening. Officials do not believe this crack was caused by their work over the weekend. The last time they had inspected the bridge was 2007, about 2 years ago. There was no crack. This time they found this crack, and they also found that there was a little bit of rust in that crack. So it's been there for a while. We've been driving over this bridge back and forth, 250,000 people every day with this bridge crack, but now it's been fixed. They attached basically a steel saddle around that crack to distribute the stress caused by it, and they say that it's safe now.
Richard, you're a regular commuter there between the two sides of the bay. How much time is this bridge situation, adding to the commuting, even just up until this moment in time?
Well, it depends on how you go. I drive in. I pick up casual car coolers. I can get in